From the land of frozen lakes, this is 10,000 Takes. Brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. Well, of course, Super Bowl 59 is Sunday down there in NOLA, and just think about it this way. I know you're boycotting the game. You're not excited about the matchup and a potential three-peat for Kansas City.
Could care less.
But as recently as a month ago, right here in these parts, the Purple Nation, people actually thought maybe the Minnesota Vikings would be downriver in New Orleans.
Well, they were 14-2 and headed to Detroit to potentially grab the number one seed in the NFC. That rings true. I heard a lot of folks saying, hey, if they could get that home field advantage, go 15-2 on the season, be home throughout the NFC playoffs, it could be their year. Well, they made the playoffs. We knew that. They went to L.A. and laid an egg.
To Arizona.
All right. Well, yeah. Okay. Went to Arizona against L.A. My bad. I already forgot. See, it's already in the rearview mirror, man.
It's just another chapter in the ongoing book called Purple Pain.
Purple Pain continues. And, I don't know. Do you see this changing anytime soon? Look, coming into this season for the Vikings, and here we are talking about the Vikings and their season's a month. It's been over for a month. But coming into this season, I know you had low hopes. You thought they were going to win 5 games. I had them at 7, so I wasn't much more hopeful than you. They ended up winning, 14 regular season games. Not bad, right? But when you do that, you, again, build up the hopes of your fan base, and then you take them down as usual.
Yeah, it's the Vikings' MO. It's always heartbreak at the end of the season. I think, there's always hope in the NFL where they like to say, they being, the folks that run the Shield, we're a league of parity. Well, that's kind of true, yet you look at Kansas City. They're one win away from really cementing themselves as the newest dynasty on the heels of the New England Patriots.
Right, so we've had 2 in a row, really,
exactly.
If you think about it.
Philadelphia is year in, year out a team that's knocking on the door. They won a Super Bowl here in Minneapolis. They lost a very close one to the Chiefs 2 years ago. Here they are back again, thanks to Saquon Barkley and really a physical, powerful offensive attack and a solid unit across the board. So could the Vikings be there a year from now out there in Santa Clara? Well, yeah, I guess anything's possible, but I wouldn't put my money on it.
Are you kidding? It's 1977 is the last time, man. It's been a long time. We are going on 50 years.
It's really sad. And we have some of our viewers who remember the Super Bowl losses. 0 for 4. And then the younger viewers, or even the ones just a little bit younger than the Super Bowl era, 6 straight NFC championship defeats. And I know a lot of the younger folks say, well, nothing was worse than losing to Atlanta in the title game, the overtime
98,
loss, or New Orleans, same thing, overtime down at the Superdome. But I'll say this, nothing is more devastating than when your team loses a Super Bowl. And the younger viewers out there can't relate, but I was around when the Vikings lost those Super Bowls. You were too. That, to me, is the ultimate low.
Yeah, well, back then I wasn't much of a Vikings follower. I was kind of happy to see them lose, to be honest.
You were a Cleveland Browns fan, and it certainly you couldn't pick 2 worse teams unless you maybe had Buffalo in the group.
Boy, it hasn't paid off, has it?
No, it hasn't. And so
it goes. The Vikings. All right, so now that the Super Bowl is here and your favorite game of the year, the Pro Bowl, is over with, the Pro Bowl touch football game or whatever it is they do. Going forward, are you a believer that Sam Darnold is going to get an offer from the Minnesota Vikings? And should they offer him something now? Are they going to throw $25-30 million at this guy? And that depletes the money that they have to spend on the rest of the team because they have a lot of needs. We know.
They do, and there's probably going to be losses on the defensive side of the ball. That's the nature of the NFL. There's always a turnover from season to season. You have to be very cap-centric and figure out how you spend your money. Look, they have to make Sam Darnold an offer, in my opinion. 14 wins, you don't just dismiss that. Yes, the final two bodies of work at Detroit and then against the Rams out in Glendale, Arizona, not good. Sam did not shine under the spotlight.
No, he was
but
bad.
It wasn't all Sam. So I make him an offer and give him a fair one and let him decide. But be prepared. He may not take it. He may want to test the waters of free agency and see if he can make a splash. And you got to have a plan B. I know everybody's hyped up about J.J. McCarthy. I don't want to throw shade on him. I mean, he's got potential. But you know what potential means? You haven't done anything yet.
Yeah, and
you haven't done squat.
Exactly. And how many rookie quarterbacks have we seen
outside of Jaden McDaniels? Who?
Yeah, and he had a great year.
He did.
Did he get him to the Super Bowl?
No, he did not.
Okay.
Bo Nix had a good second half in Denver.
Yeah. It's pretty rare. It's pretty rare.
Very rare.
To have a rookie quarterback.
It's about as rare as the Vikings or Browns or Bills winning a Super Bowl.
Oh, well, that never happens.
That's true.
All right, so we are going to hear from Warren Moon, the former Viking. Of course, he's in the Hall of Fame. He's going to talk Super Bowl with us.
All right, this is 10K Takes, your Super Bowl 59 ticket.
Seeing clearly matters. Being seen matters more. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
In Lakeville, Minnesota, dozens of meeting venues are ready to host your next corporate event, banquet, and holiday party. Lakeville has unique conference facilities, a variety of hotels, an abundance of team-building options, and dining that are sure to impress. For suggestions that suit your needs, please call the Lakeville Convention and Visitors Bureau at 952-469-2020 or go to visitlakeville.org. Lakeville, we mean business.
Push harder, recover faster, look and feel your best. At $5 tan, our infrared saunas are the secret weapon for athletes, fitness, and wellness lovers. Infrared heat penetrates deep to relieve sore muscles, boost circulation, and speed up recovery so you can stay in the game. Upgrade your fitness routine. Recover like a pro. Visit 5dollartan today to step up your wellness. Visit our website at $5tan.com for infrared locations. Feel good, perform great. Welcome back, and it is Super Bowl week. Super Bowl, what is it now? 58?
59.
59, okay. Super Bowl 59. You know, you've been to about 50 of them.
Wow, there's a shot.
But you're not going this year, but one of our guys is there.
Yeah.
Former Minnesota Viking, Hall of Famer Warren Moon joins us from New Orleans, the site of Super Bowl 59, he tells me. Kansas City and Philadelphia. Your first thought when you saw the matchup, what it was going to be, what rings in your brain immediately about this matchup?
Well, first of all, I think they got the two best teams in the league in the Super Bowl. I think Philadelphia is the best team in the NFC. I think they proved that throughout the year by their record and the wins that they had over different teams. And then Kansas City, even though everybody wanted to downplay their success because of all the close games, they still had the best record in the league when it all came down to it. So I think you got the two best teams there. You got two teams that played a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl, and it was a 3-point game. So I think there's a lot of intrigue because of that. It's kind of a revenge game for Philadelphia, and then all of a sudden you've got the Kansas City Chiefs looking to be a three-peat and be the first time three-time winner in a row in a Super Bowl. So there's a lot of good storylines going into this game. I really like it. I mean, there was a lot of sentiment for the Buffalo Bills because they had such a good year, and everybody thought this was the year they were going to unseat Kansas City. But until you beat the champion, they're still the champion. And you got to be impressed by the way this team has gone about their business, because every week that they play, every team that they play is going to give them their best. And that means they have to be up to the challenge. And that was one of the reasons why it was so difficult for them to win, so many of their games, is because they were getting every team's best opportunity.
Yeah, they had the bullseye. Warren, you've always been a humble guy as long as I've known you. But deep down, do you feel like a trailblazer? I mean, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, two African-American quarterbacks scoring off for the second time in 3 years. You go back to the late 70s when you led Washington to a Rose Bowl win. did not get drafted into the NFL because of your being African American, had to go to the CFL and win 5 Grey Cups for Edmonton. Here we are in 2025. Do you take any satisfaction in knowing that you kind of paved the way for what we're going to see Sunday?
I really do, Eric. And I thought about this a couple of years ago when they were the first two to meet each other in a Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, when they met 2 years ago. They were the first African-American duo to go against each other. So that was something that made me really proud, and that's something that's probably one of the most proudest things that I've done throughout my career was, I think, played a small part in making change at that position and getting people to believe that African Americans could play the most high-profile position in team sports, and they could lead their football teams. They could be the face of a franchise, all the different things that go along with being a quarterback in the NFL, that we were able to do that. So I think because of my play, I think because of Doug Williams winning a Super Bowl back in 1988, I think the way Randall Cunningham played during his time in the league, I think that opened a lot of eyes to general managers that, hey, these guys can play at a high level. And I think you started to see more and more African-American quarterbacks get opportunities to play the position, and that's something I'm really proud of.
All right. Speaking of quarterbacks, and we've talked about this all year long, the Minnesota Vikings have some choices to make. They obviously have J.J. McCarthy under contract. He is going to eventually be wearing a Vikings uniform. At what point next year, if he's healthy, we don't know. But do they make, in your eyes, an offer to Sam Darnold? And if so, how far do you think they can go? Because they have a lot of other needs, and he's going to chew up some salary cap depending on what they decide to pay him. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, it'll be very tough because if they don't offer him a long-term deal, they can't really stretch that money out. So that's going to make the salary cap number even higher if it's if they offered him a 1-year deal or a 2 or a 3-year deal. And I don't think Sam would want that at this point in his career at 27 years old. He's probably looking for a longer-term deal. So yeah, it's going to be a tricky situation. A lot of it's going to be up to what Sam is willing to do. I don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to be ready to play next year at the start of the season. And even if he is ready, he's a rookie. We don't know what type of player that he's going to be when he goes out there. He could be Bo Nix, but he could also be Caleb Williams. We don't know. We just don't know because as a rookie, most rookies are not going to be great players for you. But they are high on JJ, and I understand the reasons why. But until he gets out there and does it, you don't really know what you have. So I think that's one of the reasons why they signed the kid from the Giants as an insurance. Just right. If they do get rid of Sam, they've got him, and he can start the season out until JJ is ready to play. So, yeah, the Vikings are in a predicament right now. It's going to be a lot of what ifs or how is this going to go? There's a lot of uncertainty within their organization at that most vital position right now.
Warren, you study quarterbacks closely. Now Sam was outstanding in the regular season until the final week. Aaron Glenn had this blueprint for Detroit, and it was blitz, 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 and he was rattled. And the LA Rams did the same thing in the playoffs. Is what we saw from Sam the last 2 games fixable, whether it's here in Minnesota or with a new team? I mean, my goodness, the 14 wins have to count for something, don't they?
They really do. Sam had an outstanding year. There's no question about it. And it's too bad it ended the way that it did. I don't think they had great plans for those football teams as far as their offensive game plan to get the ball out of his hand quickly. A lot of the plays that he was that were being called for him to hold on to the football. And when you're going against, 8 and 9 man blitzes or 7 and 8 man blitzes, you got to get the ball out of your hands quickly, and you got to have places to go with the ball. And he just didn't have a lot of places to go with the ball. At least it didn't seem that way by watching it the way I was watching it. But it is unfortunate, and I don't know. Maybe their coaching staff knows that they didn't have a great plan for him those last couple of ball games and didn't expect those teams to come after him like they did.
Yeah, I think, Warren, and this is what I said, I think that they just said, we're going to do what we do, because they were able to, as you said, he was able to hold the ball a lot of the time during the season. And when the Lions used basically a lot of second and third stringers, let's face it, the Lions they had 11, 12, 13 guys on the injured list, and they were putting that defense in there. All they did was blitz them like crazy. And the Rams looked at that and said, well, why don't we do that? And they did. And the Vikings probably thought to themselves, well, we're going to do what we always do. And I think it backfired on them, clearly.
Yeah, and then they tried to do the same thing against Washington the next week, but Washington had answers for it.
Right.
I mean, Jaden Daniels got the ball out of his hands quickly, whether it was quick screens to the outside or whatever it was. They had answers for it where he didn't have to hold the football very long. And, of course, he was a little bit more athletic. But Sam was athletic enough to make some things happen with his legs. But, again, you have to have answers with the football to get it out of your hands quickly. And if all you have to do is beat a team once or twice with a big play, whether it's off of a quick screen or a quick slant or a fade down the field, they'll back out of that blitz and they'll be scared to death of it. But if you don't hurt them, they're going to keep coming with it until you stop it.
Warren, I know you love the quarterback position and the video game NFL we now have, but deep down, aren't you happy that Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, guys like that, the return of the running back? I mean, Barkley, I think he's Philadelphia's supernova. Jalen's a great player, but it's Saquon Barkley. So the return of the running back, your thoughts on that?
Well, I've always known how important a running back is, not only just running the football, but catching the ball out of the backfield, being able to pass protection, protecting the quarterback. They've always been a vital part of football, and I don't know what happened with that position that it got faded out so fast. A lot of it had to do with the fact that those guys don't last very long in the league. I think that was more so the problem than anything else. Not the fact that they weren't valuable, but you just can't count on them for so many years, maybe 4 or 5 year period, and then all of a sudden they've pretty much had it or beat up. And I think if you look at Derrick Henry, what he's been able to do and his longevity has been amazing. Even Saquon, I think, what is this, his 6th or 7th year in the league, and he's still, he's running for 2,000 yards, shows that he's got durability as well. I mean, Christian McCaffrey was around for a long time, who's not a really big guy, and up until this year, he's been very, very productive. So that position, I think, you're going to start to see more and more teams invest in that position. I think there's a really strong draft class this year coming out of running backs. So you're going to see a lot of running backs go in the draft this year too, only because the NFL is a big copycat league. So when they see success happening somewhere, they're going to go after that success in the same way. So you're going to see a lot of running backs involved in a lot of these offenses going forward.
All right. I need a one-word answer from you. It's the last question for you. Chiefs, Eagles.
Chiefs.
All right. We mark that.
I want to see great.
KC.
Warren, thank you.
Thanks, Warren. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. No problem. Anytime.
He is Warren Moot, former Minnesota Viking, and, of course, Hall of Famer here on 10,000 Takes. Eric and I will be back with more after this timeout. Stay with us.
From the Iron Range down to the Prairie Lands, over to Lakes Country, south to the Twin Cities, and back up the North Shore, the game of basketball has always been more than just a game in Minnesota. Now in its 35th year, the MYS Grade State Basketball Championships have become a cornerstone of Minnesota youth basketball. Representing nearly 180 Minnesota Youth Basketball Alliance member associations, Grade State showcases teams and communities from all corners of the state. It's a tradition that has inspired generations of players, coaches, and communities. 645 girls teams, 1,029 boys teams, and over 15,000 players. From local courts to the national stage, our athletes continue to leave their mark. Together, we honor the past, celebrate the present, and inspire the future. Minnesota made for 35 years. See you on the court.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
In Lakeville, Minnesota, dozens of meeting venues are ready to host your next corporate event, banquet, and holiday party. Lakeville has unique conference facilities, a variety of hotels, an abundance of team-building options, and dining that are sure to impress. For suggestions that suit your needs, please call the Lakeville Convention and Visitors Bureau at 952-469-2020 or go to visitlakeville.org. Lakeville, we mean business.
10,000 takes. Time now for your knucklehead update. How about Ryan Hartman of the Minnesota Wild? This past Saturday night in Ottawa, he takes Tim Stützle and he shoves his face into the ice after a face-off. Okay. Got thrown out of the game. And then eventually got suspended for 10 games by Gary Bettman, commissioner of the National Hockey League. I mean, what are you thinking? And here's the thing. This guy has been suspended four times previously. So he is a 4-time repeat offender, now a 5th time. And he does it again. Do the Wild part ways with this guy at some point? I mean, he's a good player, obviously. He's essential to what they need to do. But you can't keep taking penalties like that.
A couple of things. First and foremost, you've hurt your team.
No doubt.
This is a depleted hockey team that's dealt with injuries all season. The face of the franchise, Kirill Kaprizov, is out indefinitely, I would say. Who knows when he comes back. So that would be number one. Number two is it's absolutely a bonehead move. And I think he's lucky, given the nature of the what he did in Ottawa, that the Ottawa police aren't looking into it. We've seen this in extreme incidents in the past. I remember, I think it was Todd Bertuzzi in Vancouver. He went to regular court, not just the penalty box, right? Yep. He went to court to try to defend himself for a stick-swinging incident. I wouldn't be surprised if Tim Stützle gets lawyered up and takes this thing into the courts in Canada.
Well, wasn't a time ago Randy Johnson, the pitcher, threw a baseball and it hit a bird and blew up and they went after him? The animal rights people in Canada went after him? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. But, yeah, I would not be surprised either if this becomes legal. Look, he's going to lose... Get this.
It's 1/8 of the season.
$487,000 plus dollars. He's going to lose almost $500,000 in salary as a result of this. I mean, that's just plain stupid.
It is. And it's a self-inflicted wound by Ryan Hartman. And good point you brought up. Maybe he doesn't come back. If you're Bill Guerin, you have to start saying, is it worth it to bring him back? And given the cost to the team, and, another player you got to replace, etc.
All right. One final thing before we get to takes of the day. That was not the only thing that happened in Ottawa on last Saturday night. The U.S. national anthem, shortly after it was announced that we'd be having 25% tariffs on Canada, was booed lustily. It was the first place that it happened. It's happened several times, and now Americans are booing the Canadian national anthem. And it just goes on. It's just, the stupidity of the whole thing is unbelievable. But yes, the Canadians booed the American national anthem in Ottawa when the Wild game.
It takes a lot to upset Canadians. Yes. They are the most gentle, friendly people on the globe. So the U.S. must have done something really drastic to tee them off, and they did, in my opinion, the president. And so now you've got, the two nations, there's tension there. That's not good. But they have every right to boo. I equate it to Colin Kaepernick. He had every right to take a stand by taking a knee. You don't have to like it, but he hurt nobody. And these fans booing the Wild, they didn't hurt anybody. They just booed.
Yeah. All right.
I would say get over it.
All right. Well, we're going to hurt your ears with our takes of the day. That's coming up next. You don't want to miss it. This is 10,000 Takes.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
Wally and Eric from 10,000 Takes here in the land of lakes. And if you want sports of all sorts, check us out. We cover all the bases, all the teams in the great state of Minnesota.
Vikings, Twins, Wild, Gophers, Timberwolves, Loons, you name it, we do it. Late night Saturday night on Fox 9 Plus and on the Fox local app.
Seeing clearly matters. Being seen matters more. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
10K Takes on television as we wrap up yet another episode. Big shout out to the viewers up in the Twin Ports, the Twin Cities, up and down that busy I-35 corridor. All right, takes of the day. What's your mood? Angry American, sarcastic Sam, maybe a happy camper? What is it?
Well, as you know, this is kind of the time of year with all the All-Star games. We just got done with your favorite event, the Pro Bowl games, the touch football game that they play out there now, and they have it back in Orlando again, I guess. And the NBA All-Star game coming up, the NHL All-Star game as well, or not even an All-Star game anymore with the NHL. And the NBA has decided to mix things up. They're going to this thing where they're going to play a little tournament between 4 different groups of players, All-Star players, whatever. Okay, so here's my problem with all this. And, of course, Major League Baseball still has a game that's relatively competitive, relatively speaking, that is, as opposed to what the other 3 All-Star games or events are. NBA players, I don't understand how you cannot go out there and compete. I'm not asking you to do a Larry Bird and jump into the stands to save a basketball. I'm not asking you to go Dennis Rodman on somebody and knock him into the first row. I'm just asking you to play a little bit of defense. It's not that hard. You do it all the time. You do it for 82 games or what. Some of you guys are only doing it for like 75 games and you take a game off every other week or whatever it is they do now. That load management nonsense. You have got to get it straight. You're getting paid millions of dollars. One game out of the year, you can't go out there and play hard? I don't understand. It used to be one of the highlights of the winter was to watch the NBA All-Star game. It has gotten so bad over the last few years that they have to keep changing the format to figure this thing out to make these guys play. You're getting paid. What else do you need?
Now let's check that mood meter out. Oh, yeah, just like I thought it would be a grumpy Guardian.
Ridiculous.
He's off the rails once again.
As usual.
All right, well, my take of the day, I just want to send out a message to the NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. Enough, Dictator Goodell. Enough with these international games. The Shield feels like it has to conquer the globe. We're now going to have one in Australia next season. Melbourne, to be exact. It'll be the Philadelphia Eagles and the Los Angeles Rams. Let's see, we had the Eagles and Packers on a Friday night in Brazil this past season. Tons of games in the UK, now Germany, Mexico. There's no appetite for this stuff. Keep these games in the U.S. And by the way, when you take a home game away and throw it into another nation or country, guess what? A city loses revenue because fans stay in your hotels and your bars and your restaurants. I am tired of the NFL going global. Cut it out, NFL. And on that note, we got to go. So thanks so much for tuning us in. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.